our guest today is no stranger to growth and real estate, but none other than Bob Folsom from Omega Fitness Holdings. He's the Senior Director of Real Estate. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you, Taj. Thanks for the introduction. Glad to be here for sure.
Absolutely. Well, you've got such a great history of the business, understanding, as a franchisee in the real estate business, as well as, your role at Omega. Why don't you take us back to where your roots were? What happened at that moment in time for you to get into this business?
Absolutely. So it started 10 years ago, actually. I started at Self-Esteem Brands, actually in the security and technology division, helping install the key fobs and access readers and getting people into the clubs and kind of how all that infrastructure worked across the country. Did that for a year. And then real estate piqued my curiosity, and I actually ended up getting my licensure, and they helped me kind of go through the whole motion of learning the industry from the ins and outs all those years ago, kind of flash forward to now. So I ended up being the senior manager of real estate for the Southeast at Self-Esteem Brands for the past 7 years. And then I transitioned from Self-Esteem Brands, the franchisor, to the second largest franchisee group, Omega Fitness Holdings, at the first of this year.
Wow. So you're number two. Who's number one?
Number one is Bandon, they're called. Actually, they're in the Least Cake family as well, I believe. So yeah, they're number two, and they're number one, we're number two.
Wow, that's phenomenal. So you started as a real estate guy, and you were at Self Esteem for how long again?
So I was at Self-Esteem Bands for 10 years. Eight and a half of it, I was doing the real estate. The first 4 years of that real estate, we were the actual brokers. So we were going out, finding the locations, submitting the LOIs, negotiating, kind of working through step by step with franchisees. So I did that in the Southeast. So Texas over to Florida, up to the Carolinas, kind of all those states in between. So that's what I did for 4 or 5 years. And then around COVID, right before, we switched over to a broker network, where we kind of hired and partnered with 75 or so different brokerage groups throughout the different parts of the country. So the last 4 years at Self-Esteem Brands, I became more of a manager of those local brokers and those contacts of boots on the ground, connecting them with our franchisees in the given markets when they're showing interest. And so, yeah, a little bit of both worlds. I've kind of played in the brokerage and also the management side as well.
Okay, so I love the fact that you were at Self Esteem. You've got the broker background now. You're at Omega. How many locations do you have?
As Omega,
Yeah.
currently we are at 83 as of yesterday. We closed on another one. We added two this week. So we're on a cadence of adding about 7 to 9 every month so far. So it's
Was it three weeks ago? I was in Minneapolis with you, and you were like at 72 or something like that, right?
74, I think. But yes, no, it is it's growing. But by the end of May, we have 9 more queued up acquisitions under purchase agreements, working with landlords on assignments right now. So it is definitely an explosive growth that happens, and we have to manage all of that, as you know, on the back end.
Wonderful. And with self-esteem, describe the different brands within that umbrella, if you will.
Yeah. So Self-Esteem Brands, their main Anytime Fitness was the brand that kind of started it all. They acquired Waxing the City. That's right when I joined, actually, and Self-Esteem Brands was formed about 11 years ago. Waxing the City was the second concept that they began to scale, from 5 units. That's now up to about 170 open.
Yeah.
And then the bar method was more recently acquired along with Base Camp Fitness. So that's a high intensity interval, 35-minute core workout. So those were the four brick and mortar brands of Self-Esteem. They had acquired also Stronger You, which was a nutritional coaching, but not brick and mortar concept. And then I'm sure, as everyone in the fitness industry has heard, the big merger with Orange Theory that is taking place. So that will become a new standalone brand, obviously, in this new entity. So Anytime Fitness, Bar Method, Base Camp, Wax in the City, and now Orange Theory, all of those kind of brands will stand amongst a new parent company. I believe that's being formed.
Wow. And that's all underneath the umbrella of Rourke Capital, right? Rourke Capital has several brands. Self-Esteem is one of them. So that's being all bolted together.
Rourke was, yep, a minority owner in both Self-Esteem Brands and Orange Theory. So the merger of those two kind of came together with Rourke still
Wow.
being the stakeholder in both.
Wow. I mean, that's phenomenal. There is a ton of private equity, institutional money that's really fueling the growth of the industry, the fitness industry, absolutely, in particular. Um, Curious, what drew you to the fitness industry? Like, did it just happen, or was there some special ingredient about Anytime Fitness that said, "Ooh, I want to spend more time with this group"?
Yeah, it was the brand and the culture that first got me. I wouldn't say it was fitness per se. It was the Anytime Fitness Bleed Purple brand. As you know, it's the second, you may know, it's the second highest tattooed brand of anybody behind Harley Davidson, I believe.
I want to see your tattoo.
I don't have one, unfortunately, but I know a lot of people that do. But that passion to kind of help people, make people better, the health and wellness, kind of seeing people's self-esteem improve and kind of work through that became kind of a passion, and I enjoyed seeing that. And so real estate and Anytime Fitness kind of became the vehicle to some of that. And then obviously with my real estate background, I've been able to expand and kind of use that in different areas.
Wow. All right. So then this will be a little bit of a running joke. There's got to be a number upon which you will get a tattoo. What's the number of locations? Put you on the spot.
Yes. So we'll stay once Omega. So right now we're at 82. Once we get to 250, once
All right.
Omega hits 250, I'll get the tattoo.
Excellent. Well, we will help you get there. So now you got to tell me about technology and what have you experienced, because you've seen it all, right? You've seen spreadsheets, you've seen PDFs, you've seen all sorts of deals and LOIs. How important is technology to helping you scale, right? Where you're saying you're getting 7, 10 locations every month.
Yeah, there's really no other way to do it to actually scale efficiently. To have multiple teams be able to see the spreadsheets, the outputs, the reports, and things. To have everyone on the same page, especially when you're reviewing multiple locations the same week and you're jumping from one call to the next. You have to be able to extract data, have it all kind of at your fingertips. Especially Omega, we have half of our company in Wisconsin, half of it in Florida. I'm really the only Minnesota employee. So we are all spread throughout the country. So technology and efficiency is the only way we can do it. When I was at SEB, it was primarily all franchisee driven, right? So as far as lease management and some of that, we didn't really have much of. So out of 2,700 locations in US and Canada, I think 11 are corporate locations, right? So as far as lease management and renewal dates and all that sort of stuff, I didn't really deal with at the self-esteem brands level. I knew kind of on the franchisee side that became a whole nother issue. And so that's why when I knew my transition was happening towards the end of this year, I kind of started looking at lease management solutions and technology. And that's kind of how I stumbled upon LeaseCake.
Nice. Well, I know you've got some really good proof points, but you know, from a speed perspective, are you leveraging some of the capabilities? I mean, how do you bring on more of those locations faster into your portfolio? What have you found in your experience so far?
Yeah, so the very first onboarding experience of when I came on, we had 72 locations, and so we had half of them in Google Drive, half of them on private servers, really no tracking or management, a spreadsheet that was kind of hard to really see what was happening with CAM and reconciliations, and so it was a lot of different moving pieces. And so the ability to get on to LeaseCake, actually learn the cake bot, which to me was a lifesaver, because it was quite a daunting task to manage this. I was given a 4 week kind of runway. You
Wow.
guys gave me 6 weeks. Actually, I ended up, I think, doing it in about a week and a half. Once we kind of really dug in, and the cake bot feature was really what saved us, to be able to extrapolate all the things, search for keywords, copy and paste, and kind of move through things. Once you learn the cadence of how the cake bot works and how it searches and what keywords it kind of keys in on, it came very streamlined. So that very first initial task in January was daunting, to say the least. But then you guys kind of came alongside as a partner and said, hey, there's this actually really unique feature. We haven't actually rolled it out yet. Do you want to be the first to try it? And I said, absolutely. I love technology. I love spreadsheets. I'm a computer guy. So I jumped at the opportunity and it worked obviously very well. So I can't say enough about it, obviously, but that then goes into being able to pull reports for our accountants when they say, hey, when do all of our leases end? What is the actual, how many option periods do we have on all of these? It sets up a whole set of reporting and things for the rest of the company that they weren't really able to see at a glance, especially at this macro level of a new formation of Omega coming together with kind of these two separate entities becoming one.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, we don't just dream up stuff and hope people use it. We love getting feedback and continuing to iterate and create innovation. And you have been a wonderful example of high growth and the importance of speed, right? Getting cleaner, smarter, faster deals. Because I can't imagine that Omega Fitness has a vast team. I mean, how big is your real estate team?
You're looking at him.
Okay, so
Yeah,
holy cow, that's
yes.
incredible.
So I am, yeah, I do the real estate. So it's kind of twofold. I help with the acquisitions and all the lease assignments and making sure we can do that. And then de novo, as we call it. So looking out for new leases and new locations. So I've got about 15 new leases and new locations kind of in process. And then, yeah, we have about 20, 25 or so acquisitions at some level of process. So those are my two main functions for sure right now.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. You mentioned the word de novo, so I want to touch on the state of the industry right now and new real estate. I've heard that new developments are at the lowest stage in probably, I don't know, maybe a decade because of rising interest rates. So that's the ability for you to find a brand new location. Is that pretty much what you're seeing? Comment on that for a second.
Yeah, so brand new construction is definitely difficult. I mean, the price of construction materials hasn't really gone down. COVID and inflation and things brought things up and hasn't really honestly gone back down as much as I think some people thought. And then you couple that with interest rates and the loans that the developers have to go out and get, right? So before you maybe used to see some new construction 27, 29, $32. Now you're seeing those same shopping centers quoted for 37, 30, $40, $42, just because,
Right.
all the economics of interest and construction costs kind of trickle down. So for us on the Anytime Fitness side, we are rent sensitive to some degree. We also don't have to be in the Class A new construction. So for us, going to second generation grocery anchored neighborhood type centers has been our bread and butter. But yes, for the other brands, Waxing the City, base camps, those concepts that go to new construction Class A, there's definitely a pinch on some of the new construction development coming out.
Yeah, sure. And when you're talking now about second generation existing spaces, I gotta imagine maybe for you, is it a bit of a land grab? I mean, are there a lot of operators that are interested in reflagging to Anytime Fitness that are wanting kind of that refresh? Is it relatively easy for you to find those players for you to acquire?
It's not the easiest, but no, they are definitely out there. And we're always trying to find good partners, good landlord partners, regionals that have multiple centers. And that's what we've able to do in some areas of California. You find a developer with a good grocer and a good mix that you like, and they have 3 or 4 areas. You can kind of, again, efficiently say, yes, we'd like to do this in all 3 or 4 of your towns in this area of California. So we've been able to do that with partnering. So we're always looking. We have obviously a robust background and balance sheet and finances, which landlords always appreciate when we come along versus a single operator. So it does help make those conversations easier as well. But we are rebranding, refreshing. A lot of the Anytime Fitness clubs are going through a remodel, refresh right now. And so a lot of the clubs we're acquiring are due for those. So we're coming in within 24 months, putting a refresh and a rebrand to help lift the center as well, which obviously the landlords appreciate.
Great. As it relates to when you mention refreshes and, obviously these are not even guidelines, right? They're a requirement of the brand at a certain time at the franchisor level. How important are or is the relationship between the franchisor and the franchisee? Obviously, you've been both, and you're still an existing franchisee of another concept. Like, talk about that relationship and the dynamics. You could.
Yes, so no, it's very important, especially at this level where we're moving quickly, acquiring a lot of clubs, getting franchise agreements, transfer documents with the legal team of Self-Esteem Brands, Anytime Fitness. It's imperative. So we work very closely with them. I work closely still with the real estate team that I just left, right? We still have to get the sites approved and go through all the steps that everyone else I used to make other people go through. I still now have to go through that as the franchisee. But I know exactly what they look for on approvals and how to streamline and what packages that they need. Same thing for layouts and how we work through the construction and design. So certainly having come from the self-esteem in that franchisor system, very well in tune with kind of how it works. Our brand new construction and design director actually is also a former Self-Esteem Brands employee. He used to be the director there a couple of years ago. So he's very familiar with that system and how it works in these refreshes and the brand standards. So we have some inside information, a little bit, if you will, from Self-Esteem Brands, taking that knowledge with us. But it just helps streamline everything as we work with them to make sure approvals and things happen on these sites to make sure everything happens quickly.
Wow. Okay. So there's a few questions coming in. And here it is specifically. It's do you have any horror stories or any story that you can share? Maybe pre-self-esteem as a broker, like losing track of something. Is anything blow up that you've seen?
I've seen lots of deals definitely blow up and die. It's usually a lot of the times it's been financing at the last minute or towards the thing. Somebody couldn't get approved or couldn't get an SBA loan. Generally, as far as actual real estate terms, I haven't seen a ton of stuff blow up. Typically, the things that have drawn out are second floor spaces with vibration issues, tenants below. Those can get sticky. They're tough to solve sometimes, and
Explain
sometimes
that further. Explain that further.
yeah, so being a gym on a second floor can be lucrative, right? The lease rate and things can work out well. Sound is one thing, noise and vibrations of dropping weights and how things transmit is another sometimes. And so yeah, that I have seen depending on lease language and how it's written, insulation versus attenuation. It can get into the weeds a bit, but yeah, I have seen that end badly before, I guess if someone wants a horror story.
Yeah, interesting. We've got a gym upstairs, and we have really good acoustical insulation, and we're totally fine.
Yeah, no, you totally can do it. In some cases, it's case by case. And so yes, if it's some of the language isn't buttoned up properly, or structural engineers haven't signed off on certain things, it can get messy, but that's few and far between. But yeah, if you're making me rack my brain, I guess that's where I would go from a real estate issue beyond financing.
Yeah. Okay. So is there any critical clause around those issues, responsibilities, or is that pretty much a tenant responsibility when you move in?
Some of it is a little bit on the landlord. They make us, they'll have to like that actual structural engineer sort of thing. Sometimes we might have to verify, but we do our best to give ourselves as best protection we can. Every landlord and their attorneys are going to give themselves the best protection they can. So I mean, you do your best you can on the front end for sure. But other specific clauses in leases, I mean, things that kind of catch tenants off guard, triple net and cam reconciliations, what can be considered controllable versus uncontrollable, how landlords can sometimes use that to manipulate things and move stuff over that maybe shouldn't really be capitalized as cam. So that sort of stuff on the front end, we definitely help and have learned over the years as you kind of learn a little
Yep.
bit what landlords do.
Yep. And some of it's unintentional, right? Or some of it's intentional. I mean, landlords are typically they have outmanned and outgunned those operators that are trying to build their fitness empire, right? Their gym empire and their restaurant empire. So
And they have a lot of moving pieces. So yeah, I mean, they may have eight 10 tenants with two different clauses in this lease versus that. This they don't have a cap on cam. This tenant does. So I mean, for them, sometimes it is they forgot to reconciliate. So you may give them a call and say, "Hey, I don't think that was supposed to be in my cam," and they, okay, yeah, you're right. It is for all the other tenants, but for yours, it isn't. So there are definitely some weird wonky cases, but we do our best to get as much protection as we can.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think, not done right, it's a glorious waste of time and energy and resources. And it's got to be a massive time suck for anyone in the accounting group of any operator, right? And how large is your accounting team?
We have one. We just added a second, and I think we just hired a CFO last week. He started as well, so we're adding. We're
Yeah.
joining. Yeah, we're lean and mean at the moment.
You are poster child for lean and mean. Oh my God. It's
Yeah.
like I asked the question like, how big is your real estate team? And you said you're looking at them. And I said, how big is your accounting team? Well, it was one, and I think we just added a second. I'm like, that's incredible. I mean, you're taking fitness to the next level of being lean. That's phenomenal. That's just unreal that it's like this alignment, your corporate strategy and grow as you need and use tech in a way that allows you to think, bigger and more strategic. Are you sleeping well at night?
Yeah, I'm sleeping well at night. They're busy days. They make for good days, but yeah, restful nights.
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. So you were one of the first adopters of our AI capabilities. Give me some advice. I mean, candidly, I'd love to know what can we do and improve upon for you and the industry, brokers or within the brands that you support.
Or the cake bot abstractor specifically, or just
Anything within our capabilities. I mean, we're here to learn from you too, right?
yes, no, for sure. I will say, as we kind of mentioned, I was one of the first early guinea pigs, if you will, and I gave you guys some feedback and suggestions and kind of, and you went with it and you actually made the edits and the changes. I went back in a month later to upload more releases, and I was like, oh, this actually has changed. The functionality has improved, and so like that gives me some good feeling of, hey, they are actually listening. And for example, one of the big things when a lease has multiple documents, right? The original base lease, assignment, or an amendment or two, and you search, hey, what is the cap on CAM? Is there a cap on CAM language? Originally, it would only search the base lease. I'd have to toggle between multiple documents. Now it knows to search all four, and it'll highlight, hey, it was originally in base lease, but it was amended also in Amendment 2, Section 10, which was obviously a much easier experience. You can see, hey, the trajectory of what actually happened across multiple documents, which was huge functionality. So, I mean, even little things specific, kind of like that, as I saw them improve, helped me tremendously. I think would help a lot of people as they kind of get in there. So, kind of just your willingness to do that, I think, is showing me that, hey, that you guys obviously want to work with us. I know we kind of chatted a little bit about deal analyzers and LOIs, and as things come in, how can you actually figure out how does that line up to maybe what we want as an Omega brand standard? If we say, hey, we want rent to be this and TI allowance to be that and rent commencement language to be this, and if we have some sort of baseline, if as deals come in versus just signed leases, right? Signed leases are executed, you can't really go back and change much. But if there was a proactive and it said, hey, this is 90% of what your typical deal is, or 70% of what your typical deal is, or hey, this is 112%. It's better than your typical deal based on these four metrics. I think that would be helpful. So I'm just kind of speaking out loud, but just kind of how to get more proactive on that side. I think that functionality could be beneficial.
Well, good. Definitely, have taken that point to heart. I mean, what we'd love to create the world where you can take every tenant-friendly provision that's fair, right? That helps you kind of even that balance of power as you start to move into LOIs to negotiation. Because ultimately, you're building a gym and a fitness empire, not necessarily a real estate empire. But that could still be part of your ultimate plan, right? To own some of that real estate. Is it important Or are you seeing that, the spirit of the franchisor, SEB, self-esteem brands be more open to having a solutions, technology solutions to support your growth? Or are you finding that you're having to choose a solution that best fits for you? I mean, where does self-esteem brands kind of fit into like that support part of your growth? Are they
Yep.
encouraging that?
Yes, so they are actually kind of rolling out and have been rolling out the last year, part of their own internal PM group, to help properly project manage some of these. And so they use smart sheets and other things with task and all the different stuff. So they do have kind of an in-house team that helps walk through and says, hey, I mean, we've done this a lot. They do this with all franchisees, but when should you start pre-sale and when should you have all these things signed and all the different things in place and ordered and all the different stuff. So they definitely have some technology, smart sheets, different things that they use to streamline so that everyone's looking at the same live breathing document, which definitely helps kind of as we begin to open and move some of these de novos through. For us, since I came on board, we haven't signed new leases, so the project of starting, getting permits and doing all of that is kind of just beginning for us as we're signing our first batch of leases this year.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear. I mean, I think what we're seeing, and I think this is in, what you're articulating within the Rourke family and within the self-esteem brands family is like you have to support your franchisee. You have to support your franchisee with technology that works to help you scale and obviously to continue to grow and drive that royalty revenue and fuel your expansion. Because I mean, that equity that's behind your growth, I mean, there's got to be return, right? So the faster you do it, the cleaner those deals are, the smarter they are, the better. So I think, hats off to SEB. It sounds like your leadership at Omega and they're pretty much joined at the hip. Would you say that?
Yeah, very, very close. Long history and legacy of positive relationships between our ownership and them. Yeah.
Nice. Do you have any story about how Anytime Fitness started, or is that the way, way, way back time machine?
I do know how it started. So I'm friends with the founder. That's actually how I got to the company years ago. But yeah, it started way back in Cambridge, a little small town, northern Minnesota, with one club. They Chuck and Dave were kind of at different gyms, kind of helping others sell memberships and do things, and it kind of as consultants. And they said, why don't we do this ourselves and make it convenient and 24/7? And so that's kind of where they dreamed up this key access and started it in northern Minnesota, and then kind of started from there. And so it really grew over time. So that was 2002, I want to say 2001. So
Wow. So it's not what you know, it's who you know. I mean, maybe that's an opening, but you're a super smart guy.
yeah, it is definitely who you know. So yeah, I didn't, like I said, I didn't have the real estate background. They kind of helped
Wow.
me go get my feet on underneath me and get my license, and yeah, gave me a shot, so to speak. But it has paid off for all of us, I think, in the end.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad you shared that story because I think, ultimately, you never know the twists and turns in life that bring you to this moment where you and I are having this conversation. And it's important to, reflect back on that because we are really just a culmination of our life's journey. And whatever that experience is, whether it's parents, whether it's college, somebody you meet at a bar, or the guy that started the very, vision of Anytime Fitness, that whole kind of that universal lock. I think that is really cool because that changes how people interact. I mean, it's the evolution of tech and the evolution of fitness. It's all woven together.
It is, and they've grasped that and continue to go with technology integration and all that. But no, I agree with you. Who you know, kind of the relationships you foster over time, certainly pay off. I'm a firm believer in that. And yes, we're here for a reason. We got to this point, I think, for a reason. But I think the being willing to share your story, kind of just share who you are, how you got there with others, finds common ground, and then yeah, you make connections and network, and here we are on a webinar together.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. It's to me, it's humbling and it's uplifting because what you're doing is building, obviously it's a legacy, and it's something that not only from a business perspective, but from people's lives perspective, helping them get more fit, helping them get, healthier. I think it's wonderful. There's got to be a lot of kind of feel good, right? In the day to day when you go to the office.
Yeah, it is. And that's kind of important to me. And I have, I'm not saying anything against hot chicken and other things, fast food, but yeah, there's something about wellness and people's well-being and kind of seeing their self-esteem grow over time and actually become a better person through the product you're helping. Yeah, lease and rent and all that is kind of mundane and it sounds like spreadsheets. But at the end of the day, when that brick and mortar opens and the lives that change, that does impact me. As you alluded to, I am a franchisee. I own a unit and operate it in Fort Smith, Arkansas. So I'm an Anytime Fitness owner myself for the last 3 years. So I believe in the brand through and through, as you can tell. But yes, that the health, wellness, and seeing people better their lives definitely makes me feel good.
It's nice to hear. Nice to hear. So, couple questions that are coming across because you talked about some horror stories. What about advice? Advice that you've heard that have helped you do your job better, or even personally?
I do think, like, kind of piggybacking off what I said, it is a relationship business. The real commercial real estate world is very small. It's smaller than you actually think. I mean, there's a lot of the same landlords and a lot of the same regional brokers and same players that you kind of interact with a fair amount. And so just honestly treating them how you want to be treated and kind of coming to the deal with integrity, being transparent, like, and just open and honest. That's kind of how I approach these deals and these brokers. And it just works well over years. So yeah, honestly, like the relationship side of this industry, I think is more important than some people believe or realize.
I think that's fantastic advice. Um, because you wouldn't be here unless you had a relationship with some guy that you met, and now, he was the Anytime Fitness founder. So it's like those kinds of connections are really important. As you look to the future, like in 2024, by the end of 2024, what's Omega Fitness's size? And then what's the overall Anytime Fitness size before the Orange Theory acquisition, just kind of separating those two, or the merger?
Yeah, so I believe by the end of this year, we should be around 120. Don't hold me exactly to that, but I believe that's kind of the number we're striving for. So that'll give us about added plus 50 for the year. So
So halfway to your tattoo then.
halfway to the tattoo, I guess. Yes. Yeah, and then global units for SEB, we'll put them at about 5,500. I think with Orange Theory, they're a little over 7,000.
Okay. So I'm glad you talked about the bigger picture, the 5,500, 7,000. With SEB, what's the mix of domestic, we say North America versus international?
It is almost 50-50. It flipped over maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, but it is about 2,700, 2,600 domestic, US and Canada, about 2,700 or so international.
So
Uh,
you said it flipped from domestic to be more international driven. Is that the future? Is that what you're starting to see? Growth?
that is where the more of the growth has definitely been coming as we add new countries, new masters come on, and so yeah, they're adding more and more countries all the time. Certainly, we're continuing our domestic U.S. and Canada growth, but yes, as you can master off countries as a time, as you can imagine, that can add a lot of growth pretty quickly.
For sure. Is that in your future? Are you going to be stationed in the UK or in Singapore, or
I don't know. I mean, I never say never, but I don't know if I see that in the vision.
make it happen? I don't know. We'll
Could
see.
it could happen.
And so Orange Theory is a little bit, is it the other way around, perhaps? I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, and I don't know a ton about them, but I do, from what I've heard, is yes, they're more strong domestically, and so I think they'll glean a lot of things from international growth from their merger with Self-Esteem Brands, and I believe that'll be some of the big advantages they'll get is international growth.
Nice, nice. Um, there's some good questions coming. What what's the most important critical clause that you've seen that is the most tenant friendly, that sometimes is the most overlooked? I mean, that's kind of a tough one. At least for me. I don't know. You've seen
It's a
tons.
tough one. I mean, like truly, like as a franchisor and with franchisees, the guarantor and guarantee language, as far as biggest impact on them and how their life. With us, we don't really do personal guarantors. It's a corporate, so that language I would say is not as much a real thing that I always see and kind of is always the biggest arm wrestle is HVAC. Who's responsible for it, who has to repair it, the quarterly maintenance. Generally, the quarterly maintenance is on the tenant. We usually agree to, but repairs or replacements of HVAC units, definitely landlords always want on us. We always want on them. So that is a clause that I always try to get as much protection as we can.
Okay, good to know. When you mentioned personal guarantees, I've heard of stories that post acquisition, the prior operator was still a personal guarantor, and they may not find out for 5 years or sometimes even longer. Have you seen cases like that?
Yes, so that is fairly common. The landlords always want to try to keep the original guarantors on, unless you generally proactively bring it up as part of the assignment, like as part of the acquisition and sale and part of the assignment. We say, hey, previous guarantor B gets removed, and we'll sign a corporate or some other
Yeah.
guarantee. But yeah, no, the standard is keep them on as long as possible. Keep adding more and more. I mean, we come up across acquisitions. I'm working on one right now. The guarantor is from 2 sales ago. It's not even the current owner.
Yeah, and and then the question is, do they even know that they're still the guarantor? Right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
insane.
In theory, they should, but it's a good question. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We shouldn't live in theory land because we have legal documents and we have technology, we have binding agreements. So like it's so insane how these little things can kind of still sneak through. I mean, HVAC is certainly important, like what the landlord tenant responsibilities are. Because you have a large footprint. How big is your footprint that you take in a space generally?
The average are about 5,000 square feet. Some of our smaller clubs are like 3,500. I mean, some are 8, 9, 10,000, like on the big end, but 5,500, 5 to 5,500 is the average.
Okay. Is it important for other tenants to have a co-tenancy provision that Anytime Fitness is in that center, or do you also have a co-tenancy provision?
We push for them. We generally try to get co-tenancy with the anchor if it's Publix or Target or whoever it may be. Generally, we don't always get it, but we push for it. I would say 30-40% of the time, maybe we're getting some sort of co-tenancy clause.
Okay. What's the strongest club that you have? When I say club, I don't mean an Anytime Fitness club. What's the strongest, I guess, tool in your arsenal to make certain that a landlord agrees to a term that you want? What's the heaviest tool or most impactful?
I mean, I guess for us, my biggest strength is our ability and the activity we have. If a landlord really honestly won't play ball in a small town in California, we have 5 other surrounding towns I'm working LOIs in. And so we don't need that deal. Some franchisees, right? If you buy a town and a market and you have your territory, that's where you want to be, and that's it. If you can't make it work with that landlord, you might be hosed. We have the ability with how many territories and the flexibility of multi-states and where we're looking. I could just say, okay, I'm going to go to Orlando then and do a deal there versus California because that landlord won't play ball. So I have kind of different leverage, I think, than some others do, but we don't need to be desperate to take the deal because we have many options and other landlords that understand the strength of Omega, what we bring to the table, and kind of the long-term tenancy we provide. So we've been able to find good partners on these first 5 or 6 leases we're kind of signing right now. But yeah, that's honestly one of our biggest tools is our flexibility.
That's great. So, and the power to walk from the deal,
Yes.
right?
Some landlords you can't convince them otherwise, but then the walking is what gets them to come back in 2 weeks when they realize, okay, they don't actually need me as much as maybe I thought they did because we have other things happening. Then they might reconsider what they're standing firm on.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. All right. So we are nearing the end. We've got, I think, maybe one or two other questions. I asked you the question of like, what advice, um, have you heard? What advice would you give to anyone new in the industry, whether they're starting in real estate, whether they're moving into franchise? What's the pearls of wisdom from Bob Folsom?
I do think the devil is in the details, especially early on, figuring like learning actual language, tenant improvement allowance, rental rates, triple nets, how it all works, how it kind of works together. I mean, there's I think some people that enjoy negotiating the art of it, but maybe don't understand the details and kind of how it all works, especially when it all plays out legalities and leases down the road to kind of get the details right on the front end. So yeah, I would say learn the details, learn the actual dollars and cents, the numbers, and kind of make sure you understand them. And then the art form and the negotiating, some of that can kind of fill in after.
Great advice. Great. It is all about the details, and it's all about learning, right? Just, keep filling your brain. Well, wonderful to have you here, Bob. So appreciate your time and, you sharing your story and the growth of Self-Esteem Brands and Omega Fitness and the Anytime Fitness family. Wonderful. So again, we're going to wrap up this Lease Cake Live webcast. This was about how to grow and add new franchise locations efficiently with Omega Fitness, the second largest. And you heard it here first. He's going to be halfway through to getting his tattoo by the end of the year. We'll hit 250. And
Yeah, I guess I won't put it on the face, but I guess if we want to do it, you can ask where it should go on my body and
there you go. There you go. And I'll fly to Minneapolis, and then I'll pay for, maybe half of the price of the tattoo. And then you can pick how big it is and where it is. How's that?
Okay. All right. Sounds like a deal.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Bob. Appreciate your time. And until next time,
No,
everybody.
I appreciate you. Thank you guys.
All right. Signing off. Bye-bye.
Bye.